I told you this before. Worldly people operate in patterns, and those patterns work out in cycles. You don't have to spend years with someone to figure out someone's operation, how someone is thinking. Just look at the patterns that haunt them. Look, when you grow up somewhere, you adapt. As human being, you adapt to your environment. You take over the ways of your environment. That's why when you're born in Latin America, for example, in Chile, you speak Spanish with a Chilean accent. If you're born in Puerto Rico, you also speak Spanish, but speak Spanish in a different way. When you're born in China, you speak Chinese, depending on which version of Chinese that is applicable to your state. So, as a human being, you are an adaptive creature. Just understand the following. The world operates through patterns and cycles. That's how the world operates. That's why symbols rule the world. Now, I'm not sure if Confucius, that ancient philosopher, really said that. If there's a quote that's attributed to him, signs and symbols rule the world, not rules, not words, no laws. Well, it's true. It's a true fact. Signs and symbols. Why? Because worldly people are looking after signs. And symbols is what provokes it in an unconscious level. So signs and symbols are what make people comfortable in patterns. Because it feels familiar. Worldly people operate in patterns. Or better said, common people operate in patterns. They're not living. They're not active. They're passive-aggressive. They go around in patterns. So, now that you know this, actually I've been saying this since the time I began this YouTube channel, when you're dealing with common people, see through their pattern. Once you see through their pattern, you know who and what you're dealing with. You don't have to spend years with someone and go through stuff at their hands to understand what you're dealing with if you could have figured this out in the first 5 minutes. Look, of course, not everyone's going to just tell you everything about them. But even when you meet someone for the first 5 minutes, the information they leave out about themselves reveal also something. Because human beings, once they feel comfortable, they open up. Just like flowers do. If you put a flower in a desert landscape, the flower tends to become hard and grow thorns. When you put that same flower in a place with a lot of water, it blossoms. It tends to grow bigger. Human beings are similar to that, psychologically. So, when you can trick people into feeling comfortable around you, they tend to open, even without them being aware of it. And listen to what I'm saying, predators know this. Psychopaths know this about people. That's why they have an easy time finding targets. They know how to trick people on an unconscious level and becoming comfortable, in feeling comfortable around them. And that's how people unconsciously, they open up and they reveal things about themselves that they normally wouldn't reveal. And that's how the psychopath discovers the pattern of someone. And once you know someone's pattern, you now can predict how they will behave in the future. Because a pattern is an established route. It's just like a railroad. If you're on a road has been established, the car can move anywhere freely on that road. But the car can also move on the grass. So the car is not bounded, the car is not stuck to the road. But if you have a railway, the train or tram, or whatever you call those vehicles, they are stuck to the railroad, they're stuck to the metal. They can't depart from it. Well, that's how it is with a pattern. It's an established track, just like railways are tracks. It's an established track upon which someone moves. So once you understand the track, you kind of can predict how the future will be. Now, not predict in the sense that you know exactly what's going to happen, no, but you can glance at this. When you see through someone's pattern, you can see how they'll end up, most likely. And predators know this. Look, the reason I'm telling you to see through people's patterns, because that is what a lot of people don't do. They don't see through people's patterns. And understand the following. A pattern doesn't have to be something someone agrees with. It can be just something that haunts an individual. Look, you can have an individual that's haunted by bad relationships, by narcissistic relationships, while the individual is not narcissist at all. But that is a generational curse or a transgenerational trap that haunts him. Okay? And the individual needs to be delivered from that pattern. But the reason that pattern hangs around the individual is the individual has wrong thinking that enables evil spirits to enforce its pattern upon him or upon her. So that doesn't mean that individual is a troublemaker, but it reveals what you're dealing with. And it also reveals that the individual needs deliverance in their thinking. Look, I'm going to give a short parable now to clarify things. Okay, you have a guy called Frank, and he meets a chick called Alina. Okay, just a common example. And their conversation is not on a sexual tone, it's just on a friendship level. But Alina began to show more interest, and Frank is open to it. But soon after they establish both are interested in one another, this Alina shows withdrawal behaviors. She doesn't reply to his text messages, and sometimes out of the blue she begins to message him and she demands attention, and she even begins to suggest that he is neglecting her. So Frank talks about it to one of his buddies, and the buddies go to the text messages she's sending to him, and the buddy tells him, Frank, this chick she's not only stonewalling you, she is also gaslighting you. Why? Because she speaks as if you are neglecting her, so if you're not willing to spend time with her, as you're not willing to make any effort, well, she's the one avoiding you. And then the buddy asks Frank, what does she say about her previous relationships, if she has any? Then Frank said, well, she had this guy she was with, but the guy was on drugs and the guy exploited her, and her parents didn't understand her, her father wanted to kick her out of the house, so she's very misunderstood and all of that. And then the buddy tells her, Frank, I'm going to burst your bubble here. I don't care how innocent you are in this girl, this chick is going to kill you. The moment you ever decide to leave her behind and move on with someone else, she will kill you. She is a crazy psycho. Listen, Frank. She began talking about how pathetic she is, just to provoke you into having sympathy and empathy for her. Now, there are people that go through a lot of bad stuff. Bad stuff happens to people. So when someone is open about the bad stuff that they've been through when you first meet them, that doesn't have to be a sign of manipulation. Some people just go through bad stuff. That's what happens in this world. But this chick is using what she went through to trap you. I mean, she didn't say in the beginning, she didn't even show she had interest in you. She did it afterwards. And once it was established that both of you were interested in one another, she began to pull back. Why did she do this? She was confusing you. That's what she did, she's confusing you. And then suddenly she appears and now she wants attention. And now she suggests that you are the one not doing enough. So what happens? She is programming you and conditioning you to feel guilty when she misbehaves. That is what she's doing. And then the friend, let's say the buddy, tells Frank, this is her pattern. She just wants things. Whenever she wants things, but she never wants responsibility. She never wants to face anything in life. So, anytime she does something that's really not acceptable, she will blame it on someone else just to avoid having confrontation with other people. And she will lie on other people just to get away also. That's what she did in her previous relationships, that's what she's doing with her parents, and that's what she's doing with you. 2 months afterwards, that Frank had enough of this Alina. Then there was this transsexual, this guy that's so-called to a woman, that was a former classmate of this Frank. He came to Frank, and Frank recognized him, even though he pretended to be a woman now. And the transsexual told Frank, do you know this Alina? And Frank said, yeah, I know her. Then the transsexual told him, dude, this chick is out of her mind. I met her just a few days ago, and she was talking about 2 guys she was sleeping with at the same time, and the 3rd guy that she was into, but she really didn't want him to know about who she was sleeping with and all of that. So I asked who that guy was she was interested in, and she didn't say who the guy was, but she gave a description, and I realized this is you. And when Frank heard all of this, he was thinking, what? And then Frank confessed to this transsexual. She's been complaining often that I don't give her attention, that I'm showing much interest. And now I'm hearing she's doing this. Then the transsexual told him, Frank, that is how she does. That's her pattern. When we were in college, I never spoke to her. I always felt she was a bit odd. Now this was a red flag already. A few days ago, she contacted me on Facebook, we began to talk, and we met. And it was only our first meeting. And I already figured out, oh dear, this woman means trouble. I could see through her pattern immediately. My father told me how to scan people's behavior and recognize their pattern. Frank saves your life. And Frank did that. Shortly afterwards, Frank met another girl, and this girl treated him far better. So, when he put on his Facebook that he was in a relationship, that Alina, she gave angry comments below for everyone to see. Asking, who's this girl? Who is she? Whoa. Man, this Frank blocked her on all social media. And when she tried to contact him, she began to follow him around. He asked for a restraining order at the police station. What happened here? This Frank had lack of knowledge. This Frank didn't knew how to see through people's patterns. That's a transsexual guy, even though he was messed up because he confused himself to be a woman and all of that, despite his confusion, he could see through people's patterns. And he saw through that Alina's pattern very quickly and realized, oh dear, I need to watch out with this individual. How many of you see through people's patterns? And that's the thing that's remarkable here. Many of those self-help gurus out there, many of those anti-narcissistic abuse websites out there, many of those programs warning about narcissists, even Christian ones that use Bible verses, they never teach you how to see through people's patterns. They don't tell you this. They will tell you things like, a good relationship develops over time when you know each other better. Hold on a minute. You don't have to spend much time to know someone. When you see through someone's pattern, you know what you're dealing with, even if you don't know all the data of an individual. And they also tell you, well, people that tend to have short-lived friendships, what's often they may be narcissists. No. Look, there are people, and say common people in general, they seek validation. They seek emotional attachment. That's why they have to spend a lot of time together in order to feel comfortable around each other. Even then, they don't really trust one another. But people that are practical, they see through people's patterns and they relate to other people in a realistic manner based on the real facts that they've encountered. Let's be real about this. Hollywood, The media, also popular culture in general, they teach you to seek emotional attachment and emotional gratification when it comes to human relationships. Not only when it comes to male and female sexual relationships, with all relationships. And here's the thing, that's how common people operate. Even before Hollywood, people did this. And I'm telling you, it is a trap. People want to spend time with one another to get used to someone's someone emotionally, and that's how when they say, I know that individual. No, you're just emotionally attached to the individual. That's all. You don't really know the individual, because even though the individual tells you a lot about his or her daily life, you don't see through their pattern. And because you don't see through their pattern, you don't know what you're dealing with. And that's how you have people that become couples, even marry, and years later, the wife ends up in a home shelter, or the husband ends up in a home shelter or in a hospital. Why? Because it's then they figured out they married a monster. And it's only very late they began to realize they married a monster. While there were people around that saw this individual that they've married to, and in the first few minutes, they figured out already what type of individuals those people were. But you, who was blinded, you had lack of understanding, you who relate to others purely on emotional motives, you couldn't see it. And because you relate to others on purely emotional motives, you were trapped by the predator. That's how it goes. Now look, when someone becomes born again and their renewed inner mind, when someone is delivered, they're not operating in patterns and cycles anymore. But Satan will still come with some pattern to trap an individual. So seeing through people's patterns isn't just about them, okay? It's also about what the enemy is doing to them, because the enemy only has patterns to work with. Yeah, he doesn't have anything else. Okay? For example, you can have a female believer and she has just a few friends. But when you look at her circumstances, she always has financial difficulties. She never gets homeless. She never gets thrown out of her apartment. She never lacks food in her house. So she has abundance, but there's always financial threats on her. Now, is she someone that is irresponsible with money? No. This is a pattern Satan is using to trap her. Okay, so when you meet her for the first few minutes and she talks about how often she has financial difficulties, then you know that this is a pattern. Now you still don't know that much, but you know there's a pattern here. So you know what you're dealing with someone that's haunted by financial difficulties. But then you also figure out the individual is born again, the individual has an open attitude. Then you know it's not the individual's fault, it's just the enemy haunted the individual with a pattern. And so now that you know that this female believer has this pattern haunting her, now you can anticipate it when you relate to her. You get what I'm saying here? Okay, let me give another illustration. Let's say you have another female, this one is not a believer, or she claims to be a believer, but she's not, and she has a similar thing. But then with relationships, friendships that always exploit her. That is a pattern. So now, when you relate to this individual, you understand, okay, this chick, let's call her Jessica, she is haunted by bad friendships, by bad relationships. And then when she talks about her father and how her father was harsh to her when she was a kid, now you understand she has father issues. And this abandonment issue is what enables the enemy to enforce a pattern of abandonment on her. She always feels abandoned eventually when she's dealing with people. So then you understand that she has a rejection thinking. So this rejection thinking is how she relates to other people. So once you see through this, you understand, okay, I can't get too involved with this Jessica, not even on a friendship level, because sooner or later she will associate her sense of rejection with me. And when this happens, there will be social fog between the two of us, and the enemy can use that to blur my perception. So you realize now, okay, I can have contact with this Jessica once in a while, but I can't have too much contact. Because first of all, she's not used to having people staying around for long. So she's not comfortable with that. Secondly, she still is not able to see through stuff. She's not ready to. So that means that when issues arrive, she probably wants to flee. And if you are around and she begins to associate that rejection with you, she will try to flee from you. And if there are others enabling her behavior, those others may turn on you. So that's how you now can see things coming, because you see it through Jessica's pattern. Okay? What I'm teaching you here can be life-saving for you, or life-saving for those around you. See through people's patterns. And those patterns don't really have to be theirs. Those patterns are things, can be things associated with them. If someone is not born again, then it's a pattern they are involved with. If someone is born again and renewed in their mind, then it's a pattern the enemy is forcing on an individual through circumstances. In any way, by seeing through people's patterns, you will know what you're dealing with. I just told you earlier in this video that predators have this understanding. Look, when you have a child molester, for example, I'm using a very extreme example now, a parable now I mean, but I use extreme parables because they highlight what I'm teaching. If you have a child molester, he does just see a child playing in let's say, in a schoolyard and decides, I'm going after that kid. No, the predator knows that if people notice him, he can die. Because there are people out there that really hate child predators, child molesters, and there are people out there, when they find out you're molesting a kid, your life's in danger. They'll come after you. You have many of such people. They're not evil people, but when they hear that you're harming a kid, oh dear, you're in trouble. So child molesters know this. So the child molester notices the kid, but the child molester doesn't focus on the kid. He or she, also women molesting kids, but some people don't want to acknowledge it. But anyway, the child molester in this parable, I'll use a he and a she. First, we'll use a he parable. Let's say that you have this child predator called Dick, and Dick, I'm not referring to the sex organ, I'm referring to the name Dick, D-I-C-K. Okay, it's just a normal British English name, or American English, whatever it is. Dick focuses on the parents, and he sees the pattern that the parents have this loving marriage, but this loving marriage is only the result of them being in denial. So once the child molester sees this, he knows their weak point. So he approaches them as a mailman to delivering mail, and that's how he builds trust with them, by keep reappearing in their life, keep appearing as a man delivering mail onto them. So once the brains of the parents develop a pattern with this guy, he then enters their home. Because they are used to him, they feel comfortable around him. So he enters their home. And once he enters their home, they introduce him to their children, and he sees that the kid he wants to molest. And that's how the child molester finds its way to its target. He evaluates the pattern of the parents and those around the target to see if he is able to do his thing. If you have a female who tends to molest a kid, she will do the same thing. But because she's a female, she has one advantage in her evil doing. People won't suspect her of wanting to harm kids, because she is good looking, she wears high heels, she wears red lipstick, so people think she can get any man she wants. Nobody is going to think she might be so disturbed in her mind that she might want to act out on a kid. People won't think that they will quickly offer, and she knows this. So she will befriend certain women who are mothers also, and when befriending them, she will see through their patterns, and once she acknowledges the pattern, she can predict their attitudes and their behaviors. Because they're in a pattern, they won't go anywhere else. And that's how she gains access to their personal affairs and to their kids. And that's how she makes her move. I'm saying that as it is, folks. Predators, they see through people's patterns. It's time for you, believer in Christ, to see through people's patterns also. Yes, it's time for you to see through them. Too often, when it comes to people that claim to follow Christ, I'm not sure whether real believers or not, you have those testimonies of how they're going through stuff and Satan's making it hard on them, and they are doing the best they can to get free, but it seems as if things never want to stop. And then you have those pagan pastors of those Babylon churches grant them relief through deliverance ministries or through worldly coping mechanisms in the form of setting boundaries, enforcing boundaries, and all of that, instead of teaching people how to walk in dominion. When you agree with Christ, you operate in dominion. That overrules and exceeds the coping mechanisms of the world. But instead of teaching people to operate in dominion, Babylon Church teach how to cope. And the coping strategies are very familiar because those are the same coping mechanisms worldly, or I would say common people use. And because you've been conditioned to embrace those coping mechanisms, you feel familiar when the Babylon church or the pagan apostle teaches you those. But when you look at the bigger picture, you realize, hold on a minute. Why are these people coping like the world? Why aren't they overruling? Why aren't they operating in dominion? Now on this channel, I'm teaching you to operate in dominion. That's what I'm teaching you. Not in violence, not in coping mechanisms, but in dominion. And here's the thing. Predators, whether financial predators or sex predators, predators in general, they operate more in line with dominion than many people that claim to follow Christ. Predators see through people's patterns. That's why they don't go after everybody. They don't. They really don't go after everybody. Predators only go after those whose patterns are convenient for them. Look, predators are quite intelligent when it comes to see through people's patterns. And when a predator talks to you, of course, she uses psychological tricks to make you feel comfortable, and you become comfortable on an unconscious level. That's why you open up. And it's when you open up that the predator keeps asking questions, or the predator suggests things, and you react to those suggestions, and that's how the predator gets an image of who you are. Then he will see through your pattern. And it's based on this that he or she can see how quickly and how fast they can go with you. Some predators see they can go very fast, and within a few days you're completely exploited. Others do it within months or a few years. Predators see through people's patterns. Now, I'm not telling you to become a predator, absolutely not. I'm just telling you to see through people's patterns. I'm not telling you to go and make conclusions on people based on few information. Just look at the bigger picture. Okay? Don't just look at what's in front of you. Look further. And by looking further, by asking constructive, critical questions to yourself, you will notice far more. Too many people's vision are blurred by the conditioning of society. And society itself enables predators. There's nothing wrong with you being open. Okay? You can be open and transparent even to strangers. If you're just able to see through people's pattern, that alone will keep a lot of bad folks away from you. Why? Because when you see through someone's pattern, you will respond automatically in ways that are beneficial to you. Because once your mind senses danger, your mind reacts. There's a reflex happening. That's how you build as a human being. But if you don't see through people's patterns, you tend to feel comfortable around those you shouldn't be comfortable around. What I'm teaching you here Not only predators use it. You have detectives with years of experience using this, and that's how they're able to solve complex crimes. Yes, they see through patterns, and when you see through patterns, you often see almost all of it. Because there aren't that many people on the earth operating in dynamic ways. Well, I'm not talking about it, I'm talking about in percentage of the population, very few. Then that are those who are born again and renewed in their mind. They're the ones operating in dynamic ways. For the most part, most people, unfortunately most believers, they operate in patterns. Often not even aware they're operating in patterns. So when you see through people's patterns, you already know them. You don't know every detail about them, you don't know all data about them, but when you see through the patterns, you know them. Because it's a pattern that they operate in a pattern. So when you know the pattern, you know them. They are, let me say, they're not their patterns literally, but when it comes to operation, they are their patterns. Why do you think advertisement works that well? Let me say, advertisers, most of them are pagans. They know how common people operate. They know that people operate in patterns. So they also know that most people don't want to be free from patterns. It's scary for them. Even though most people won't acknowledge this about themselves, they don't want to be free. So advertisers know that the best way to get people to do what you want is to trick them in a pattern. And the best way you trick people in a pattern is by suggesting a great outcome with the pattern that you present onto them. You don't have to force someone to buy your product. You don't have to put a gun to their head and tell them you're going to buy this product now or else you'll die. No, you don't have to do that. Just suggest a great outcome with your product psychologically and repeat this over and over again. After a while, many people will feel uncomfortable about themselves because that great outcome you suggest onto them is something they want because it relates to their natural human needs, especially needs to be relevant. So they'll begin to feel bad about themselves because they'll think, hold on a minute, this is great outcome coming with this thing and I don't have that great outcome. So they'll begin to feel bad about themselves. So to get the relief from feeling bad, they will purchase your product. So by keep suggesting the great outcome associated with your product, you also provoke them feeling bad about themselves. And they want to get rid of this feeling bad, so they'll buy your product. Even if they didn't intend to. Even if it's something they don't need. What happens now? They're stuck in a pattern. And they hope that pattern will relieve them from difficulties. But now you suggest a difficulty onto them because they have this deficit on the inside because they're not in agreement with Christ. You provoke a deficit by suggesting a great outcome onto them. A great outcome associated with your product. So it's not really a great suggestion you associate with your product. You really condition them to buy your product. That's a different thing. When someone suggests something great onto you to bless you, that's different than what advertisers do. Someone suggests a great outcome onto you to bless you and to push you in the right direction is different than an advertiser who suggests a great outcome to condition you. Okay? The advertiser, he conditions you to think without his product something bad's going to happen. I don't know what a bad thing is, but something bad can happen. And that's how they trick you in a pattern of consumerism. That's why mainstream media keeps repeating certain symbols, certain code words in their news messages. They're establishing a pattern for you. Hey, I'm telling you as it is. They know how common people operate. So they anticipate how common people operate. And that's how they manage to trick the masses and exploit the masses. That's how you have people that end up in a lifestyle they never intended to go into to begin with. That's how you have people that end up joining churches or joining cults they never intended to join. That's how you have people that end up in relationships, sometimes even marriages, with someone they really had no intention of getting involved with on such a level. And it's only after years of being in the management individual they wake up and realize, on a minute, how did I end up marrying this guy, or did I end up marrying this chick? And now years have passed, you can get those years back and think what happened. Now this is what happened. That other individual saw through your pattern, and he or she tricked you based on the pattern you were in into something they wanted you in. Just like an advertiser tricks you into purchasing the product, and they trick you on an unconscious level. They don't trick you on a conscious level, because if they would trick you on a conscious level, you would say, hold on a minute, what are you doing here? But because they tricked you on an unconscious level, you by yourself acted out the way they wanted. And now they will blame you for acting in that manner, if it were them provoking you and triggering you into doing it. So then they will use guilt to keep you where they tricked you to come. That's how capitalism works. You trick people into relieving themselves with a product, and once they've relieved themselves with a product and realize, hold on a minute, this product is worthless, then they'll feel bad about themselves. And then you offer them another product, and that's how you keep it going. And you even suggest that it's their own fault for being so dumb. So then you also use condemnation, because when you use condemnation, they will blame themselves. And they don't want to face that, so they just want relief again. And that's how you keep them in a cycle of consumerism. That's how you keep them in debt. That's how you keep them in financial bondage. The same happens with relationships. That's how cults operate. And, oh man, some people don't want to say this, that's how society operates. Society triggers you into a lifestyle by violating your needs, your basic human needs, your need for safety, your need for security, your need to be relevant. By violating those needs and also offering a relief by so-called providing in your need for relevance, to be relevant, they trick you into a lifestyle. But this lifestyle is not what it appears to be. So when you're in this lifestyle, you realize, oh man, this ain't it. But then your society also condemn you, saying, well, it's your own fault, it's your life, you're responsible for your own actions, blah, blah. There will come a lot of factual statements to condemn you. And that's how they prevent you from questioning society as a whole, and that's how they prevent you from looking at the bigger picture and seeing you've been conned. Look, it's one thing to influence someone into a direction that's beneficial. There's nothing wrong with influencing someone on a conscious level into a better direction. If someone is addicted to drugs and use the power of suggestion to get them out of the drug addiction, that's a good thing. It's another thing when you use the power of suggestion to exploit someone. And that is what the world is doing. Well, that's it for now. Agree with Christ and be at peace.